I just to be able to reside in here.
Can you tell you to adjust your Thursday?
I don't
have one. Where is it?
Michelle. Trying to find it.
Trying to find it. And he's like, oh, I think this was a part of the audition. You might feel, you might not have me.
Fortunately, it's
Just right here, they just go right there.
Thank you.
No more girls. Like, it actually makes me go there. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I've been telling you.
Right. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Today is 6:30. Thursday, October 9th, 2025, and this is the general meeting of the School Board of Intermediate District 287. Before we move on to our agenda, I would like to ask Board Member Kim Ross to read our mission and start our board member introductions.
With pleasure. The mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students. And I'm Kim Ross, proudly representing Eden Prairie.
Keith Tate from Osceola Area Schools.
Good evening, I'm Michael Bergman. I represent Edina Public Schools.
Brian Roth from West Tonka Public Schools.
Caroline Long, Robbinsdale.
Dan Genestra, Wayzata Public Schools.
And Casey proudly representing St. Louis Park.
And Shannon Andreessen representing Hopkins Public Schools.
So the first item on our agenda is to approve the general meeting agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? So moved by Shannon. Is there a second? Second by Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. All right. First item on our agenda is audience opportunity to speak. I believe we do have someone signed up for audience opportunity to speak. All right. So we'll read our preamble for public comment. The purpose of the listening session of the school board is to give community members an opportunity to provide input directly to the school board about issues that fall within the school board's authority. The school board members will not respond to questions. However, they may ask a clarifying question. As a reminder, speakers may not discuss or disclose any private educational data on any current or former student or staff. Speakers may not identify any current or former student or staff during the listening session. The only exception is that a parent who is speaking may choose to discuss private educational data on their own child. Speakers may not make allegations, charges, or complaints against any student or employee. If a person wishes to make an allegation or to file a complaint against a student or employee, the person should contact the superintendent directly. The board chair may direct the superintendent to follow up with any speaker's comments or complaints. And I think it's Sarah. Okay, and I see you up there, and you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, members of the board, for your time tonight. My name is Sarah Hayes. I'm a licensed literacy specialist, and I work at North Education Center as a specialized instructional coach. On October 1st, I submitted my 2-week notice to my supervisor, Stia Jama, and she's the senior special education manager. I was informed that the district wants to retain me through the end of the first quarter or until the district can hire a replacement, whichever comes first. While the end of the first quarter is just over 2 weeks beyond my preferred exit date, I am here to ask you to release me from my contract and allow me to exit the district on October 15th for the following reasons. One, my mental health has suffered while in this position. I have sought medical care due to anxiety and depression that were brought on solely by work stress. I cannot continue working under conditions that make me unwell. Number two, I do not have a special education license. This year, approximately 80% of my day as an instructional coach is actually spent on due process compliance, not instructional coaching. I have very limited experience in IEP management. Therefore, I am ineffective and inefficient at providing support or training on something or anything to do with due process. After every question I am asked by a teacher, I have to ask my supervisor or another better qualified coach what the answer is. The teachers I'm coaching know that I don't have this knowledge and distrust the advice I give. I have received excellent training. However, the kind of discernment I am being asked to have over federally binding documents requires the knowledge and understanding that comes from years of doing the actual work, much like how judges don't rise to the bench fresh out of law school. They spend years as lawyers practicing their skills. I have been trying to learn the aspects of due process that I'm required to know. However, the more I know, the more I grow concerned about the areas in our due process where we are appearing to be out of compliance, and these areas are well beyond my scope to address. These issues further drive my anxiety. There absolutely should be people providing due process support to the teachers in District 287. There is a great need. I, however, am not a person who can effectively and efficiently do that work. And I'm asking you to release me from my contract so that I can be well and useful to students in a field in which I am trained. Thank you for hearing me tonight.
Thanks, Sarah. I know it's awkward to just say thank you and we don't respond, but that is how all of us are used to doing this in our own member districts as well. So thank you for coming and sharing. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion? This just contains routine business items. There's just a couple of items this week. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Michael. Is there a second? Second by Kim. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. We do not have shared success tonight. And then our superintendent's report is on virtual board meeting attendance and meetings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So at our last meeting, we talked about virtual board meetings and remote attendance and the difference between the two. So I hope I captured all of the conversation. The agreement was to draft a procedure that you would review and provide feedback on, so we could get finalizing it. One thing I would share is in the procedures under section 5, items 1 through 4 are legal language as part of the statute. 5, the location free from interference of others, the recommendation from our board member. 6, having reliable and stable is under the intent of this law. And then number 7 was a recommendation for, like, if we have a board retreat or a study session, that those would not be virtual attendance. Any feedback or clarification or recommendations?
So we do not, this is a procedure, we're not voting on a policy. Correct.
Few minutes just to kind of.
100%, yeah.
Minor edit.
Yes.
In the first sentence, I think there should be a dash between in and person.
Okay.
And then, in section 2, second line, except one member, I would take out of the body. So one member is physically present.
Other recommendations?
Yeah, the only thing is under point 2, maybe wanting to say, may call a virtual meeting under the following circumstances, including but not limited to. So that way if, gives us a little wiggle room if whatever.
I agree with the additions of 5 and 6 under 5. I just don't know. Those seem to be subjective. And maybe it's up to the chair to decide whether it's what to do if there is interference from others or an unstable internet connection.
I think there's not any heat to enforcement, sure.
Yeah,
So I guess it would be, depending on what it was, a conversation after the fact, or how can we help if it's the, the technology.
right.
I think it's good to have these expectations perhaps, and then if they're consistently not being met, then the board as a body might want to sit down, discuss. Sure. Okay, given that this is consistently happening, do we want to maybe say, okay, we as a board don't feel comfortable having virtual
Yeah.
Mhm.
meetings for these people, right? I think that might be a way of.
Yeah, because this could come back for a conversation at any time.
Okay.
And I mean, remember, we talked about this, but like the intent of this is for it to be used sparingly, right? Like for a virtual board meeting to happen only in the case of like severe weather where people can't make it. Or for an individual board member to join remotely, only if there's like a need. So if there's something really important that we're voting on, or if there's a need for, a 7th person for a quorum. So it wouldn't be, I don't think I don't want to encourage folks to be using this anytime when they just are out of town or whatever. If you're out of town and you want to watch the board meeting, you're very welcome to do that as long as we have a quorum in the room. We don't necessarily need you to be here in person or to be joining the board meeting as a board member.
I think my comment would be those sort of expectations are, this is what's expected of you in order to be able to participate as a virtual member for a board meeting. If you're violating that or you can't, adhere to that, meaning like your internet connection wherever you are is really bad and you're going in and out, well, then you would just be summarily say, this isn't working, click, you're off, and that's what happens. The interference part is a little bit more tricky, but certainly I think to the judgment of the chair, if there's witnessing of there's something that's distracting or interfering with the actual business that's in there, this is the expectation that's not being met, there would be an opportunity to then address that, not just after the fact, in the moment if necessary. I don't have a problem, at least from the authority of management of the meeting, which is what you do anyway, whether we're physical or virtually, to be able to do that.
Yeah, I would say, in the case of serious interference, that would be the case here as well. So, right.
Yeah.
I would also say though, that if somebody just has to be out of town and we're voting on the budget. Right, that it would be okay for that board member to request a view.
For sure.
I get that now we have to do roll call votes, but this is a really important vote,
Yeah.
so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank you.
Bringing this up.
Yeah. So I
Will give
will
us some options and
finalize-
crossing our fingers that there's not a big snowstorm on a Thursday, but there is. And we're prepared.
It's supposed to snow a lot.
I've heard that farmers all
Um,
places.
So I will update with the recommendations that were provided, and then for full transparency, put it on our website, on our board page, so people are aware. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank
May
you.
I ask, that was obviously for the board meeting and for board members, but from a practical standpoint, are you also considering this for your staff? In terms of having people, if they only have one thing and it's for only 5 minutes and it's not going to come until the latter part of the evening or whatever it is, do you want to have discretion to be able to tell your staff it's okay for them to join virtually, or do we always expect them to be here?
Yeah, so I currently, we currently talk about it, and I say if you're not presenting or the topic is around you, you can join virtually, but there is an expectation of the cabinet or executive leadership is what we call it, to be either present or virtual at a board meeting unless there's a personal circumstance.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. All right, next up, we have Melissa Browning, our Director of Special Education and the Nexus team, are going to provide an overview of the Nexus program and reintegration information. I think the board members are excited about this because we've been, something that we've been talking about and interested in over the past couple of years. Yeah,
Well, it wasn't
yes,
something
let's go for
I
it.
forgot to add, Madam Chair, sorry about that. Last year we had a retreat and there was things that the board members identified wanting to learn more about. This is one of them. So I just want to make that connection to the feedback that you provided and why we have a formal presentation.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, good evening, Superintendent Dowd, Chair Casey, members of the board and colleagues. I'm so proud to be here this evening to introduce Amy Wald and Megan Madsen. They're going to share an overview on the Nexus team and the exciting work that they do both within our 287 sites and programs and in your community schools. So this team embodies collaboration and innovation in action, supporting students and staff and building capacity as they're working in your buildings and programs. The work has a significant impact, and it really has been wonderful to see how much the directors of special education in your districts have supported this work and have continued to advocate for this team's continued work. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amy and Megan.
Thank you, Melissa. Good evening, Chair Casey, members of the school board, and Superintendent Dowd. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Amy Wald. I am the Assistant Director of Special Education and Itinerant Services, and I am also the supervisor of the Nexus team. I'm here tonight with Megan Madsen, who is a licensed school counselor and one of our members of the Nexus team. Slow down. I'm so excited. I just have to slow down for a second. Sorry. I just couldn't wait for tonight. I had maybe a little too much coffee. So we're excited to be here to share more about what our Nexus team does, the impact that we had last year and what's ahead. So we're going to kind of run through our mission of the team, tell you some stories and share data that illustrates the work that we do and our goals and accomplishments that we're planning to meet going forward. All right, so you can see we're missing two of our members. We did invite them along, they're just not here. So Ashley Vikander, she's a nationally certified school psychologist, and Ann Quinnell, who's a board certified behavior analyst, are also on our team. So there's four of us currently. We've just added a new member this year. So historically, last year there was three of us on the team. We are an interdisciplinary team, so we have diverse backgrounds, as you can see, professional backgrounds, experiences and perspectives that we bring to this work. The team was started during the 2019-2020 school year, which was a little bit of a challenge, but it also provided a lot of time to lay that foundation of the work that we currently do, especially within our reintegration process. And that need really came out of our member district's request for more support for students within within all of your school districts to keep students in their least restrictive environments. And then it was really twofold. The other part of that is to support students who are currently at 287 to reintegrate back into your member districts. So also that focus on least restrictive environment. At this time when there are budget constraints and challenges with meeting complex student needs, we are a huge benefit to your districts because we are not an additional cost. So we are very cost effective in that regard.
So our mission is truly student-centered and responsive, and it drives all the services and supports that we offer to our member districts. While we cover many areas, there are some key supports we provide. We provide collaboration around individual students. We provide real-time embedded coaching for both teachers and paraprofessionals, and we provide specialized training for paraprofessionals and other district staff. So these services are really tailored to meet the unique needs of each member district, and our team works collaboratively to identify the best strategies to support student success. We follow a clear process no matter what the request is. We start with an initial consultation where we meet with the member district team. When they request our services, they give us just a very brief, we'd like help with a student or a classroom. So we meet with them to truly discuss what's going on and explore the potential areas of collaboration. Then we have our planning and prioritization. Together, we identify those priority areas and best outcomes. Nexus will then go out and observe in the classroom, observe the student, observe the program. And then we provide the on-site support working directly with staff to co-develop and then implement any effective strategies and interventions. So this slide gives a snapshot of the impact that Nexus had over the last school year. At that time, like Amy mentioned, the team was made up of 3 of us, Amy supervising, and then Ann and I kind of boots on the ground. So we're proud to share that all 12 of our member districts submitted at least one request for support from the Nexus team last year. It demonstrates both the need for and the trust in our team services. In total, we received 51 requests, and we're pleased to report that our team was able to respond and begin working with your member teams in 2 days within 90% of the requests. So it highlights both our efficiency and our commitment to that timely support. The breakdown of those requests by grade level, kindergarten through 5th grade comprised 52% of our requests. Middle school, that was 6 through 8, was 16%. High school, 9th grade through 12th grade was 6%, and we had 2% of our requests come from early childhood education. So it shows that the majority of the support requests are coming from the elementary, which helps us guide our resources and plan our services.
So to highlight more of the breakdown of the requests that our team received, of those 51 requests, the majority were received for individual student behavior. So like Megan said, that initial consultation and that collaboration centered around individual students. From there, it was class-wide support, professional learning that they engaged in for staff, paraprofessionals, and then some transition planning. In addition to work in member districts, our team also responds and supports our internal school staff when there's complex problem-solving needs for student situations, and as well as that support for due process and other transition work related to students coming from your districts to our district. Sorry. So for the 34 students that we received requests on last year, we're really excited to report that 64% of the students remained in your member districts last year. So I think that really highlights the value of the work because students were able to stay in a less restrictive setting. 9 students were referred to our district to get more intensive support based on their needs. And even though they came here, because of the work that our Nexus team did, they were able to transition those students seamlessly to our setting through supporting the enrollment and welcoming process within our district.
So as we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, a core part of our team's work is to support students as they transition back to their community and home schools after receiving more intensive services here at 87. So our goal is always to help them succeed in the least restrictive environment. And we're proud to report positive outcomes in this area. So last year, 37 students began the reintegration process, meaning they began taking at least one class in their home community school. Of those, 20 students fully transitioned back. The remaining students are still in the process of reintegrating, so they may be taking 2, 3, 4 classes, but they're actively working towards their individualized goals with support from our team and our staff at our 287 sites. So the breakdown by grade level, we currently have 15 high school students who are in the process of reintegrating, 7 middle school students, and 13 elementary students. To highlight one of these successful stories for you, last year, a student fully reintegrated back into their community school as a 2nd grader after receiving services in our therapeutic teaching model program that they came to us as a kindergartner. This demonstrates how early consistent support can set students up for long-term success. So here's what the special education director of Hopkins Public Schools had to say about working with Nexus during the relaunch of their autism spectrum disorder program. The Nexus team has helped our district with individual student and program needs. In the summer of 2023-24, we rebooted our ASD program with Nexus support, including spring observations, summer professional development sessions, and fall coaching. Nexus has been great to help us keep students in their least restrictive environment. So this highlights how we support both the individual students and the system-wide efforts to keep students in their least restrictive environments.
This next quote also is from Hopkins Public Schools. This is the special education leader that our Nexus team worked closely with last school year. I've truly appreciated working alongside the 287 Nexus team. Their thoughtful approach, taking time to understand both our students and programs, has made a meaningful impact. They consistently highlight what's working while offering constructive ideas for growth. So I think this really captures the strengths of our team, the collaborative approach, building trust with our district administrators in all of our member districts, and this one in particular. And we really tailor the supports to meet our district's individual needs. And lastly, this quote, also from Hopkins, was from their special education leader who was tasked with starting a new program, early childhood program. So our Nexus team worked closely alongside her during that entire process. And she stated, Nexus supported us as we started our inaugural year for Rise in Early Childhood. Their support was non-judgmental and relevant to our student population, with flexible scheduling for observations and helpful feedback sessions. We know that starting programs is not an easy task. There's a lot of moving parts and always challenges. So we're happy to hear that we could be of support for this leader in Hopkins.
So to ensure that we're continually meeting the needs of our member districts, because we know education is always changing, we developed a survey this year that we share with our district staff, with member district staff, after we meet with them following every collaboration they have with us. And we invite them to provide honest feedback about their experiences and offer us suggestions about how we can improve the collaborative process. So this continuous feedback loop is essential. It allows us to learn directly from the member district teams and to make data-informed adjustments about how we deliver our support. So by actively listening and responding to that input, we adapt our strategies and refine our support models, ensuring that our services remain both relevant and effective. And ultimately, that strengthens our partnerships. So far this school year, we have received 21 requests for support, and that number continues to grow. This reflects the ongoing trust that you have in our team and the need for services that we provide. We remain fully committed to continuous improvement and excellence as we support our member districts and their students. Thank you for the opportunity to come speak to you, and if you have any questions, we can take them at this time.
Thank you.
You said 21 this year. Is that kind of, because you had 51 total last year?
That's almost double than what we received last September.
She has a graph to
I
show
like
her
data.
supervisor how much of the flow change there's been, so we didn't bring that visual, but yeah.
You said that. Well, thank you for highlighting Hopkins. And also just wondering, my interest was piqued when you talked about specialized training, in particular for paraprofessionals. How would a member district go about requesting that?
Oh, so in your packet, we had our brochure and there's a QR code on the back. So that links directly to our Google form. You can also email us at the Nexus email on the brochure, and teams that have reached out for that specialized training that have built relationships with us will just email us directly as well.
Okay, so I was wondering, does that come from, let's say, a specific site or program within the district, or would it come from like district admin level or who's?
I can speak specifically about Hopkins. Nicole, who provided one of our quotes, will reach out on behalf of her programs for us. We have had higher level, like assistant directors, reach out. So it kind of depends. Each district is a little bit different.
Development, when we meet with the directors of special education. we're all in. So whatever they need, if it's special finance, special education programming, if it's stuff for, the Nexus team or Top Informed, whatever they're looking for, our team comes together and says, yes. Thank you.
So first, kudos to the Hopkins team for obviously responding to whatever requests are about feedback. That doesn't say a lot about the rest of us, but that's awesome. Or you only favored Hopkins, that is. But second is actually going to Keith's question was about mine's really was about capacity. So as you gotta know how to increase the request, what I wrote down was, what's the capacity of the Nexus team for the number of home district requests? Like, is there a certain amount? We have now 4 people, you had 3, now you have 4. So from that standpoint, I see this as a major success of what 287 is offering the home districts. And the more that Nexus is involved with doing things by also keeping kids in the home district or making sure the transition into 287 is successful and of course come back. So I see I can see why we wanted to talk about this from when we were first given it. I'm just curious about the capacity. Like, do you have a sense of, for your existing structure, how many requests and how much activity can you do with all the different things you have listed here in this wonderful brochure? Can you give me a sense of what you think that is?
Well, that was part of the reason that drove our need to increase our team this year. So
Okay.
that was a request from member district directors. They see the value in this team, like you're exactly like you were saying. So now we do have 3, like you saw on the board, 1 additional member. So we always have additional work within 287. So I think we're just going to continue to monitor the workflow, and that's why we meet regularly to monitor, and I make sure that they're being there's a lot of driving involved, right? So making sure everyone's still, their well-being is considered. And the miles in the car aren't getting too many, but that's why we track the data that we do to analyze the workload and to determine if we're being responsive, if we need to increase membership within our team. And we also lean on other itinerant staff within our district and others as needed. So there's, I would say, like ancillary members of the Nexus team that are not part of the main team on here.
Excuse me real quick, do you think strategically, do you have like a sense of where the Nexus team is at today? Is this where you think we want them to be optimally, or do we want to see success being, maybe they're a team of 7 and they're able to take on a lot more requests from that standpoint? Where do you think strategically they're at this on their?
I think normally not be my indicator of success.
Okay.
Indicate, just, students with one site is with like head count is now. We're looking at the outcome data.
Right.
So a student may need a week worth of support in building strategies in the classroom, someone might need more. So they're not equal.
Yes.
An indicator of success would be feedback, reintegration, not coming to a federal setting for, and able to save a least restrictive environment because those strategies work. Now it's not successful. Okay,
Exactly, that's what
but
I'm, that's what,
I want to
exactly,
acknowledge both ends of it because it's.
yes.
But that we really are building capacity to support, you saw the referrals, you've seen an uptick in, referrals to District 287 and whatever we can do because of the expertise of our teams, to support the buildings, especially new special education teams, building environmental structures, as well as, schedules and strategies within the day. That's a win-win for everybody. So I'm gonna be looking at more of how many students are we supporting, how long are we supporting them, when do they release, and then integration and, just kind of more outcome of students be staying in that least restrictive or going back to it. And then when they go back to that, they're successful, right?
Well, I thought though, all the different things you covered, and the other thing I also really loved was when Hopkins was talking about doing a new program for early childhood, that coming to you to gain that sort of knowledge and experience and kind of mapping that part out. That's another wonderful aspect, I think, of what your team is about when 287 is providing to home districts. I would hope that the vast majority, if not all of our home districts are taking advantage of that type of experience. And so that's what I would hope for in that. So thank you. Thank you.
Our team can do this level to say, should you build PACS program in your district? And then also, what does that look like? Because we have expertise tailored in the physical environment to support students.
I took some of my
Oh, I'm
questions.
sorry.
I mean, it's good, first of all, it's good to hear that you have success metrics that you're following. And that, so I guess my question is, first of all, do you have, long-term goals for this program? As far as where the, reentry, numbers, how many, where that could be, and then what that means for the team, so they're not capacity constrained. So that's one question. The other question is, what can we do as, in our member districts to help promote the program and make it successful?
I think one thing you can do as a board member is if you're hearing things, we're always out at our member districts with our directors of special education, with the superintendents. Here's what we can do, trying to provide that information, and not that everybody retains all the services that we have. So just, have you ever thought about reaching out? Even if they just reach out to me, I can connect them to a team member. I think when we think about the Nexus program, one, it's in partnership with our directors of special education for our member districts. What do they consider success? And with Nexus being newer, we are really getting foundational data of reintegration. So I think we need a little bit of like, what do we clean up our data?
Mhm.
How do we measure success? How do our member districts measure success and have agreed upon measures? I think it is an absolute, not as a gatekeeping, because sometimes people could view a team like this when we're gatekeeping them not coming into District 7 or slowing that process. And so how do we educate around that maybe we can provide strategies to stay in the least restrictive environment? And then we really know, what, the student might need a federal Civic 4 right now. And that evidence is really critical for member districts, as well as we learn a lot about a student before they even come, when our team has been really supportive. And so we can even be better when they come to us. I think it's a program that we're gonna continue to monitor. Our member districts are extremely interested in growing this. And so we have to do it in a wise way. And making sure we can give what we say we're gonna do. But I would say we're in preliminary talks around long-term success and growth of this program.
We heard tonight that there's a lot, the referrals are up over last year. How does that? That clearly doesn't mean that this is not working. I'm not trying to, but
Yeah.
we need to reconcile
Right.
that with the referral
Yeah.
numbers.
And how would Nexus be part of the pre-referral process? We get to the referral.
Right.
That's
Right.
a sweet spot that we need to have greater discussions around.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
one,
well,
I was
One more
just,
question.
oh, go ahead. Go
What
ahead.
is where's the Nexus, the name come from?
This is pre-me, so I'm gonna have some team.
I think it just means that connection, and, between us and all of you.
Okay, cool.
Oh.
I didn't know if there's an acronym for something.
No, it's just the nexus, yeah. And I was gonna say, to speak to that pre-referral process too, like one thing I have already done this year is to partner with a member district assistant director, I think it was St. Louis Park, on really that process, that revamping the process of what it looks like to exhaust all interventions within the setting 3 and within all of the settings, really, the special education programming within the member district. So also supporting, like from my end, not physically on site, but being a thought partner for processes that staff are utilizing and leaders are utilizing within districts, I think is part of the work that we do as well. And then they come out and help and support the training and the reinforcement of following those processes. So yeah, that's part of it.
So I just want to say that when I think about this, it falls squarely within the mission of the district, right? And I mean, I think it's a an out of the box and an innovative way to think about the mission of the district, because, you know, you always think about direct student support. And yes, we talk about wanting to have students in the least restrictive environment and just really being true to that as well. And, you know, having folks with your expertise come into our buildings and share strategies that our folks can use, not just with a particular student, but with other students. It's just building their skill sets too. So I'm continually amazed by all the work this district does. And I'm really excited to bring this back to my board and let them know. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. We, had a good, part of this some time ago, and to have the refresher on the great programming you provide is very helpful. You mentioned that, referrals were just over 50. And I was curious if those are, roughly proportional to the population of buildings, of school districts, or if maybe some use the program more because they might provide something like that in their own district, kind of the usage district to district.
We did not share usage. We do have that data. I think I missed the first part of your question, but I think, are you asking, do some districts use us more
Yeah,
because of their relationships, or
yeah,
what, if it's reliant on if they have their own programming, or
yeah.
I think maybe, do you want to take that one? Because you see more
Yeah,
firsthand the
it's,
changes. that
so
have
it's
occurred.
mostly been kind of word of mouth within districts, or if employees who have used us from one district take a position in another district, it's like, hey, have you heard of Nexus? And then that district starts using us. This year, I would have to go actually look at the data, but I feel like the teams that utilized us last year are the ones to reach out first this year, because we built those relationships.
Mhm.
Don't think it's yet proportional to the size of your district or the programming,
Mhm.
because I do feel like we started with the start of Nexus is a very critical timeline because that's when COVID hit. And so we believe in saying who we are, what we do, and little grassroots and word of mouth and at the directors meeting, and so that it is still I would say a young program, and
Mhm.
that the data is collected, but is not proportionate to our current member district structure.
Thanks so much.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is, I mean, I remember when we first started talking about this, and it's just amazing to see how it's grown and how it's back from that COVID time, and it just really feels to me like a critical connection befitting the name.
Mhm.
With next our mission, with conversations that we've had here about like, what does it mean to host, out of district setting for schools, right? Like, and what does it mean for us to be board members representing both, home districts and this school district? And how, I think we've said, right, like, it would be great to like put ourselves out of business. Like, this is how we do that. And so I do think and I guess I just want to like put this bug in board members' ears and like think about this, but like, there's like a fiscal argument to be made. You're saying that you don't charge districts for this, but it is, as it scales, it will save districts money. And so then there can be an investment there's an argument to be made for an investment from our board, knowing that is happening in our district. So just a little.
Can I
Yeah,
add a little
please
bit,
do.
Chair? So when we say it's no charge, that's not necessarily true. So we don't charge for every visit. We don't charge like,
Employees.
yes, but it is part of our overall billing.
Yeah, it's
And
built into our cost.
Yeah, so if it's built into the cost, it is equally distributed in a better, a more efficient way. But if you were to say in typical like academic return on investment, intervention like this is a third of a cost to a placement.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Mhm.
as your
Mhm.
influence grows and as your team needs to grow, that is the argument.
Yeah.
Well, I think that actually, that's a great point. Has there been any resistance to, like, in a home district, special services area, when wanting to, if there's an offer to come in to help or whatever it is and so forth, would there be someone who might think of that as a pox on their ability to figure it out themselves, as opposed to looking at this as a wonderful consultative resource to use? I want to hope it's the latter, not the first, but I don't know that to be true. So I'm assuming you guys don't go unless you're actually requested, so you have to wait for the request. But do we have any sense of, is there any resistance that why requests wouldn't be made by Department of Special Services in our district?
Yeah, so again, yes, we have to be requested, but the person that's getting the support may not be the requester,
Right.
right? But what I think is amazing about this team is even if there's resistance, it slowly fades because they understand that they're there to help.
Yes.
And so that first awkwardness in their skill set would makes it seamless.
This is just an added value, added advantage of being a member of 287 for our home district.
Mhm.
And that's how I would articulate it. Okay.
I do anticipate this program growing.
Yeah, I think it's great. So my understanding is that it starts with a request around a specific student from the home district, right?
Yes.
Do
Oh,
you,
mhm.
yeah, are there instances where we have, there are students currently at 287 where you have identified that maybe they're good candidates to work with to try to integrate back into the district. So you're prompting a request.
From our district back to member districts.
Yeah.
So we don't have the capacity to be a part of all of those conversations, but we built a reintegration framework that we provide training on to our staff internally. And so that's why it's so important for us at every IEP meeting and even other meetings throughout the year to revisit that least restrictive environment discussion with parents and families around, is now an appropriate time? What goals are we working towards? So we have a manual that was built during that foundational year that we continue to refine and train on and support our site staff with. And often myself or other members of the Nexus team may be called in to maybe do a tour back in your district to see, what does this environment look like? What are we missing here? The student really needs a lot of coping skills that they utilize here at 287. There may not be environmental arrangements for them back at the member district where they'd be going. So how do we make it that work for them? What accommodations do they need? So we have those really in-depth discussions so that we can allow them to be successful during that reintegration process. Because we do move slowly because we want it to be successful, because we know how heartbreaking it could be to start and stop that process. So that's part of the work that we do.
Yeah, okay, good.
And I would add at the IEP meetings, there's a representative from your district who's entering into that conversation. So we're not doing it in isolation. It's all
Yeah.
collective with the family.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you all.
All right. We don't have much in the way of board business. The October AMSD Connections newsletter came out. There's an article, cover story from our member district Minnetonka, and a little note about the Blue Ribbon Commission. I don't think we talked about that yet. Congratulations, Superintendent Dow, for being named to the Blue Ribbon Commission.
Like someone had a
You have
brain
a
to do that.
very difficult charge ahead of you, and we have every confidence that you are going to be essential to this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to be on it.
Calendars are attached to the board book. Get on the Bus is coming in October on the 28th. Only a couple weeks away now. And we are going to West. I hope we'll get to see the equity trophy at West.
You shall see the equity trophy.
And we have the bubbles.
I will have bubbles, yes.
So make sure to join in if you can at West on the 28th. And then also make sure to check the dates for the 209 lunch, which are also in the board book, and we'll go out in superintendent's Friday update tomorrow. With that, do we have anything for once around the table? Go ahead.
just wanted everyone to know that, MSBA is in the process of, solidifying their resolutions for their delegate assembly. So I hope that's on everybody's radar. That's where we get to talk about what legislative priorities we have for the upcoming year and the delegate assembly votes. So if you are not a delegate, you can talk to whoever on your board is. Hopkins does have a resolution that we're hoping will be recommended for passage. However, we do have a history of not being recommended. So any support that can come from member districts would be great. It is a resolution that would not cost school districts anything, but I think would give a big return. It is to give caregivers a certain number of hours of paid leave in order to go to meetings and fully engage in their school district. So things like IEP meetings, and parent teacher conferences, and really is intended to level that playing field for families who cannot afford, especially in this economy, to even take an hour off of work. They are required to give it, but it does not have to be paid. So that is our resolution. I think we could see it having a really deep impact on those families who are most vulnerable right now. That's my, yeah.
Well, we were fortunate to have one of your board colleagues at our school board meeting. Jen Westmoreland joined us to talk with students serving on the school board as representatives. It was absolutely fantastic. We're very grateful to her, as well as the student who came to represent the fine group of students who have really advancing kids' needs and informing the adults on what might work and what maybe won't work. So that meant a lot. I will share kind of on I think a harder note for our community. Some of you might have heard, our superintendent of schools, Chase Anderson, announced he will be retiring at the end of the fiscal year. And so many of you, I'm sure, know Chase. I've met him. He's just about the best guy around. So it's been an 18-year run. I was fascinated to learn that this past, year, this current school year actually, was his 43rd in a row in public education and his 61st in a row first day of school. So this goes to show how dedicated he's been his entire life. So we will be in touch in the future regarding the process of finding a new superintendent. I know many of you have been through this process in the past several years, and so whatever insights you can provide to my colleagues and myself would be very much so helpful. And I hope you will write down my phone number and give me a call. So we want to get this process right. We're committed to excellence in each and every Wayzata Public Schools, and it goes a long way who we hire for superintendents. So, thank you, Chase, for 18 years of wonderful service.
Okay. Yes, give Chase our congratulations on his retirement. Okay, well then, that I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Shannon. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Michael. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye, and we are adjourned at 7:23.
I just really remember.
People on that side yet?
Yeah.
Did come that way.
Started.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.